Hello, my name is Lynn Musa, and I'm going to share with you what I call the ripple effect. This happens when the impact of a single gesture is far greater than you'll ever know. It's a privilege to be presenting to like-minded people, and I assume that's why you've joined me. We have a shared interest in understanding and being part of the solutions to support the growing number of mental health issues, mental health struggles, and their associated implications. My purpose today is to offer perspective on the importance of mental health as you continue your journey to being part of the solution. Mental health and mental health issues are normal, and when we can accept the normalcy of the struggles we'll no doubt encounter, we'll work our way through them. And these struggles build the solid foundation on which we continue to build our lives. To normalize this, we need to accept, and to accept is to break the stigmas associated with mental illness. The data that we collect from reliable sources, such as the Canadian Mental Health Association, represents all of us as Canadians. We are a subset of the world population. And coming together as peers and colleagues in our respective workplaces, we need to recognize that each of our organizations is also a subset of society, and the data applies here too. As representatives of our workplace, we have an opportunity to reflect on this information and consider how we can influence and have a positive impact going forward. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you to think about this notion I'm about to share with you and consider, what does it mean to you? Think back on times in your life when certain gestures had significant meaning to you. I'll share just a couple of examples with you. Graduating from high school, my teachers were on strike for 4 months. It was fun, but I really wanted a graduation yearbook. So I took it upon myself to go into the school library, learn how to create a yearbook, and endeavor to put one together for print. One day, my chemistry teacher, Mr. Nash, crossed the picket line to bring me a muffin. When the strike was over, I took a keener interest in chemistry to make him proud and to honor his care. And I have no doubt that that influenced my love for chemistry and my decision to pursue sciences in university. Forward to a few years ago, when I felt like my world was falling apart because I was being called into the principal's office for my youngest when I was going through marital separation. Here I am, the new manager of wellness, and I keep having to take time away from work. My manager calmly said to me, "Just do what you have to. You'll be fine. We'll be fine." It gave me all the strength that I needed to continue. Each of these moments that we can remember comes with a feeling of care and respect, but most of all, a message of you're not alone. To reinforce the point, for those of you who are parents, consider this through the lens of your child. When my oldest son started swim lessons at age 6, he came out beaming ear to ear. I said, "Wow, that was fun for you, eh?" "Yeah, it was the best." "No, how come?" "Because the teacher called me little buddy." I can assure you those 2 words had an impact on how he then showed up for younger kids as he grew into young manhood. In fact, at age 16, all 3 of my sons became lifeguard swim instructors as their first job, and I got to hear many stories on how they paid forward little buddy. And so the purpose of this exercise is to appreciate how we all have had an impact on each other. By way of a single gesture, we may influence the direction of someone else's life without ever knowing that we did. And with that, I'll ask you to take pause and think about your role in your life and your role in your work. Think about where you started. Think about what you've done in the sphere of wellness and mental health. If you haven't started, you're here, which is great. And if you have, you're here, which is great. Together, the movement will happen, the cure will come, and the difference will be made. The power of sharing between us is so essential for that movement to happen. Sharing is learning and growing, and when it has to do with mental health, people health, fellow human beings, my employees, your employees, colleagues, friends, we must share. This isn't about revealing corporate proprietary information. This is about doing the right thing. We're all related, and we should have a vested interest in sharing what's worked and what hasn't in our respective companies. Imagine if we're all doing this together, how powerful that can be. When I began my role in wellness, health, and safety and disabilities, I took the opportunity to view the company as an entity to assess this entity's overall health. Tasked with developing a wellness strategy, I took a step back to determine what that framework would look like and came up with 3 core pillars of health where I believed we as a corporation can and do have an impact on our people. Those are physical, financial, and mental. The physical pillar of health includes fitness and nutrition, which we all agree are essential. We also appreciate the impact of financial health, and being employers, we play a role in that. And then there's this elusive mental health. How do we impact this? As we focused attention on each pillar, it became evident very quickly that we really needed to spend some time developing systems to better support mental health. I'll share with you the approach taken to start a movement as we continue to build traction towards a mentally healthy workplace. To illustrate the importance of committing time to mental health, I took my 3 pillars and I put them to the test. In my workshop, I presented images of NHL players and celebrities who would be immediately recognized by most people. I asked participants to consider if they believed these people passed the health test on each pillar. On all counts, before knowing their outcomes, we would look at them with envy. They're doing what they're passionate about. How could they have gotten there otherwise? They were all physically well and have loads of money, without question. We make assumptions. We assume they pass the health check on all 3 pillars. Physical, yes. Financial, yes. Mentally, unfortunately, not so. Tragically, each one presented had suffered such severe depression that they died by suicide. Let's look at another example. Stephen Hawking was born in 1942 at the young age of 21. He contracted a motor neuron disease and was given 2 years to live. This man lived to be 76, and he's regarded as one of the most brilliant theoretical physicists since Einstein. Let's do the health check. Physical? Sadly, no, not so good. Financial? Yes. Mental? Yes, with flying colors. In his own words, he said, "Hello, my name is Stephen Hawking, physicist, cosmologist, and something of a dreamer. I cannot move, and my speech is through a computer. But in my mind, I am free." This man has left a legacy far greater than the cosmos. And so what can we deduce from these health checks? There can be no health without mental health. And this is why we must focus on mental health for all, ourselves, our families, our friends, and our colleagues. But why else? We know intuitively it's important, and we put our pillars to the test. What keeps drawing our attention to mental health, and in particular, a business? If our pillar is to remain standing, we need to understand the forces against it, and we need to balance with opposing forces to keep it upright. It's a simple force field analysis. This became the start of the type of information I needed to share with leaders, because when they understand the why, knowing what to do will come more naturally. Managers, leaders, they were influencers and continue to be long before TikTok and Insta. They are the influencers when it comes to how employees feel about work. And so I present to people leaders the elements that mandate our attention. From the aggregate data, including the presenting issues in disability leaves, prescription drugs dispensed, and employee assistance plans, I educate about the laws that govern employment. They have a huge influence on answering the why of how we operate. I present challenges, realities for employees. People are having kids later, parents are living longer, and living in the middle is expensive and frightening and complicated. We live in a world where access to medical care is complicated, medication costs are unaffordable, and the list goes on. And managing all this comes at a huge cost. So to counter all the stress causing forces, what can we do? This information needs to be packaged in such a way as to affect change in how we show up. So how are we going to do this? Well, there are 3 foundational concepts that can help. The first foundational concept is you have to make sure you believe your own story. It may sound silly, but consider this a self-check in a way. Do you carry some bias, maybe a bit of stigma? We all need to acknowledge our own humanness of being a judger. And the trick is to learn to catch ourselves in the act. If you're not quite there, that's okay. Figure out how to get there. And if you're not able to or ready to be that person, then find someone who is. You have to walk the talk to be convincing. And when you have conviction, you can speak to the ROI. You'll speak to it intuitively, and you'll identify the metrics that you need to support it. The second foundational concept is you have to have a good foundation on which to build. Using the brilliance of Maslow, we can translate self-actualization into business speak, which is motivation, goals, bonus, career opportunities, all that good stuff that we speak so well in corporate. All these factors are indicators of success. It's what we're aspiring to be. And when we achieve, then we have succeeded. This is self-actualization. What the image of Maslow's hierarchy of needs presents is that without a solid base, we can never achieve this top tier. They're really layered on top of each other. Assuming the ground base of human basic needs is met, there's 3 more layers of psychological needs that we need to get through to achieve the goals and feel excited about being on this corporate journey. These psychological needs are fundamental. They haven't changed over time, no matter the era, the generation, and the trends. Our fundamental human needs have not changed. And guess what we hire to work in companies? Fundamental humans. And the third foundational concept is my little human rights test. You know how the courts have tests for establishing if there was discrimination? Well, I have a test for establishing that if we are on track doing the right things. Let's face it, there's no recipe or formula on how to do this because each individual is unique and so will be their circumstances. So as a general guideline, I ask myself in the language of the law, is what I or we are doing reasonable? Is it in good faith? And emerging with great importance is this question of, should we have known? Ought we have known? Which speaks to our duty to inquire. Gone are the days when we can say, don't ask, because if you do, we'll have to deal with it, or don't, because it will open a can of worms. If there's an indicator that someone may be struggling, then we need to ask the right questions. So once we're solid in our conviction for what and why, it becomes a matter of getting started. Start talking. Remember, true learning is iterative. So if you feel like you're repeating the same message, good, you're doing it right. And so there'll be many opportunities for a variety of programs, workshops, seminars, whatever program of choice. In the spirit of repeat, continue to build on them, send messages, and provide opportunities to keep the dialogue going. There's no end on how to do this. Pick one and do it. Pick another and do it. Come back to the first and do it again. And remember to talk to each other. Many hands make light work and many voices get heard louder and more frequently. Maybe it's peer-to-peer, conferences, health summits, legal updates, roundtables, or discussion groups. You decide, and then come back and repeat. If you need some assistance getting started, I offer a workshop for leaders and for all staff. I call it Let's Act Mental Health. The title is built on the tremendous success and traction generated by Bell Let's Talk Day, and this takes it one step further. Let's walk the talk. Let's act. The actual course content of Let's Act consists of two parts. The first part is what we refer to as mental health acumen, which includes the foundational concepts that I've shared with you, including both external and internal data to provide the context. If you have an engagement survey, try to get an indicator question that can be added to that data. The second half of the day is focused on the role the leader plays in the whole process, and their role is huge. So this is the what and the how for the leader. It starts with prevention, just doing the right things and understanding your impact every day, walking the talk and building it into the culture. Invariably, we will have employees who are struggling, and asking the right questions is imperative. This provides an opportunity to mitigate absences and leaves. This is early intervention. It's where we can ask our employees, what do you need? If possible to accommodate, then we give it a try. And if employees need time off for medical attention, that's okay. The manager realizes the critical role in connection. Maintaining contact during a leave is essential for a faster return with an increased chance of success. And once the employee is ready to return, our managers are so much more supportive and engaged in the collaborative approach to success. Underpinning this process is the belief in our people and developing trust from them. Think about it. If you don't trust someone, it's really hard to have a constructive relationship. The condensed half-day workshop is designed for all staff, and that creates an opportunity to speak the same language, to instill the same principles of self-care and personal accountability in health for self and health for the company, through supporting each other and understanding a little bit more about why managers do what they do when supporting their colleagues. It's important for everyone to hear and speak the same language. The courses have been a success, and the testimonials affirm this. And so where does this leave us? What is the end goal? And when do we know we got there? Well, as long as we exist, there'll be no end. We're complex creatures, and our world demands are becoming even more complex. Our programs will be refreshed. We'll have new materials, new managers, new people, new circumstances, and we will keep repeating the language of humanness. And when my days are gone, in the end, my efforts will not be on a cosmic scale, but I am confident I will leave a bit of a legacy by way of my ripple effect. And I hope you'll join me.